Okay, so I'm going out of order again here. I have this fidget spinner here from a company called KINetics Asia Pacific. This one was not easy to obtain. One of the people who watch my videos recommended it to me, and I was able to get one. I had to go directly to the company and talk to the people who make them to get one. It cost $100 plus $20 shipping to get here, and it is quite unique. This is easily the heaviest fidget spinner I've seen so far. It weighs 214 grams, and it is a big beast. It is heavy with huge buttons. It's got a 608 bearing in it, and that's the one I'm going to review next. It's called the Pentagon. It comes with an extra bearing, which seems to be a ceramic hybrid 608, and it has a little pouch with it, a little kind of burlap pouch, and a tool which apparently you take off these. I'm going to take the buttons off for a second here. You take the buttons off, and to get to the bearing, it looks like you have to take this plate off the thing, and this is a little tool to do that. Little star driver. So I haven't taken it off yet. I might try taking it off later and getting that bearing out, but I want to test it with my typical techniques first. It seems to spin pretty well and pretty fast for having a 608 in it. It gets moving there. So I want to test this one out and see how well it does. But this one's a pretty unique one. It's very, very heavy, and we're going to see how well that tests. Okay, I'll get back to you in a minute. Okay, I just got done testing the Pentagon from KINetics Asia Pacific. I've got a couple of things to say about it. For one thing, for such a heavy spinner, which it weighs 215 grams, which is the heaviest spinner I have so far, it does function really well. One of the coolest things about it is it has very large buttons, and they're kind of flat, so they don't really stick out that much. So you can actually put two fingers on this thing and hold it very steadily and spin it with your third finger, and that works. Or you can just go with one finger and you can still spin it. I'm not quite sure why. You know, it does hold your finger quite a bit away from the center, but it still seems pretty easy to spin with a regular throw stroke or a pull stroke. Either one works fine. I think it has to do with these little, I don't know what you call them, these little outcroppings here at the edge. They catch pretty well, and they still seem to spin pretty well. Now, the biggest issue with this thing is that it has a 608 bearing in it, which is really not ideal. It got spin. I'll go through the spin times really quick. It was very consistent no matter how you held it, one way, the other way, or vertically, and it was getting 5.5 to 6 minutes in each way, which is kind of low for something that heavy, but still superior. You know, 5.5 minutes is a pretty good spin time. So it actually got an average spin time of 5 minutes and 48 seconds, and it was very consistent, so it didn't get much of a penalty for inconsistency. So the appearance, I give it a 9. It looks fantastic. It looks like a battle tank. The feel, I gave it an 8. It does feel really good, despite what you might think. It feels like a really good spinner. It's something you can sit and play with. perceived quality, I gave it an 8 also, so I got an 8.3 subjective score and an overall score of 8.2, which qualifies it as superior. So this one works out really nice, but still we have this issue with the 608 bearing in here. And you would think something like this should be able to get a longer spin time. So of course my first instinct is to want to put an R188 bearing in it and see what happens. So, but that's a little bit difficult. But let me go through this first here. I've got these two other heavy spinners. We've got the Mech Force Delta Core, which I think weighs about 176 grams, so it's definitely lighter than the Pentagon. And we've got the Dubel brass hammer, which weighs 200 grams. So which one feels better? If you want a really heavy spinner, let me just play with it a little bit and see. I mean, that's very nice. The Delta Core, again, it's very nice. You know, I would say those are about equal in that respect. The Dubel brass hammer, being a bi-spinner, it's a little bit less uncomfortable, although this one did get very long spin times. I think it was up in the 11 minutes or so. And this has a 606 bearing in it. So in terms of just how fun are they to play with, I'd say these two are about equal. They both work very well. They are surprisingly good to play with. They both have huge buttons, kind of crazy huge buttons, but they both work out very nicely. So, of course, I had to try this with an R188 bearing. The problem I ran into, of course, was that this thing is really thick. I do have an adapter to adapt a 608 to an R188, but this thing is so thick I was going to have a hard time getting buttons that would fit. But I did find something that worked kind of good. So let me just take a minute here if you bear with me. I'm going to take this thing apart and put it together the other way. Got our little tool that they sent with it. We'll take a few screws out. Four should do it. Then we can slide this plate aside and get the 608 bearing out of there. And this is my adapter that has an R188 already in it. It's one of those Naus bearings. And we'll put this back together. And it'll just take me a minute here. So now we have an R188 bearing in here, and the only issue left is the caps. So I finally found something that would work. I stole these off another fidget spinner. I won't tell you which fidget spinner it was. They don't fit perfectly well. Yeah, I'll tell you what it was. It was the modulator. I'm going to do that one coming up soon here. So these fit in here, and they stick out quite a bit, but it's the only thing I could find that would actually even work in this very thick Pentagon spinner. Let's see if I can get these on here. So we have these little buttons on here now that stick out quite a bit on the sides, and it spins really nicely. So what did I get with this? I tested it twice with this R188 in it, and vertically it got 11 minutes and 49 seconds, and horizontally it got 9 minutes and 17 seconds. So we pretty much doubled the spin time with an R188 bearing, which leads me to want to say this company really should either just stick an R188 bearing in here, or give us an adapter kit so we can, you know, adapt it to a 188 with a with some buttons that'll fit an R188. So that feels really cool. These buttons are a little, these modulator buttons are a little bit slippery. It's probably not the kind of thing you'd really want in there, but that's all I had that would fit it. So I will tell you also, it's really hard to get one of these. The company seems to be just starting up, and they don't have any website, and they don't have any way to buy one. What I had, it was somebody who watches my videos suggested it to me and told me how to get a hold of them. And I got a hold of the people in China who make this, the people at KINetics Asia Pacific. And I was talking to them through Facebook, and they're very great. They're great to work with. They were very helpful, and they got me one. My spinner is serial number 6. And so I'm assuming they might have a few more left, although I hear they made a small production run on the first batch. But you have to kind of get a hold of them and talk to them, to people at the company directly, in order to get one. And they let me pay through PayPal, which worked very well. So if you can get a hold of them, they're really great to work with, and they can get you one of these things. I'm sure down the road they'll have a website and everything that you can buy one from. But at this moment, it's a little bit difficult to pick this guy up. But it's well worth it. So far, the heaviest fidget spinner I have, and one of the nicest. It's pretty nice with either button. The Mech Force buttons don't fit on this, by the way. They're not thick enough. So this is a really cool one. Check this out and see if you can get a hold of one.